What's going on, guys? My name is Tyler Lauder. He is the Aaron Benn. This is Second and Short. We're bringing you guys another NFL divisional breakdown before this NFL draft. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been watching our videos up until this point. If you guys want to watch more content, we're going to keep pumping these out all the way through the NFL season. Click that subscribe button in the bottom right. Leave a like. Give us a comment. Tell me what I did wrong this entire thing. That'd be awesome.
Tell me how great I am. That would also be awesome.
There you go. Now, before we do this, we need to talk about something that happened. There is this crazy thing called the Bill O'Brien that is happening. And it's this weird thing where you can't explain anything that is going on through the man Bill O'Brien. But we're going to try. So why don't you talk me through the Bill O'Brien that just happened?
The Bill O'Brien. Well, the Bill O'Brien experience, as you remember, had us trading DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick and David Johnson. So now, what happened the other day is that he decided he needed to replace DeAndre Hopkins, and he did that by trading a second-round pick for Brandon Cooks from the Los Angeles Rams and a fourth-round pick. What do you think about that trade, Tyler?
Now, here's the thing. I like Brandon Cooks. Now, he has had an issue with concussions, as we talked about, and he's just been this guy that kind of has been getting hurt in recent times. Now, what I like about him is Brandon Cooks is going to be playing on his fourth team, and he's only 27 years old, and he has never touched free agency. That's what's crazy. He has hit over 1,000 yards receiving on 3 different teams with 3 different quarterbacks, which shows me he can play with anybody. He's a natural talent. Now, is Hopkins better than him? Yes, clearly. This is a downgrade. But if Bill O'Brien's happy.
Yeah, and I think the real issue here is a Brandon Cooks contract, because he's only slated to make this year. He's only slated to make, I think, like $8 million, 8 or 9. But then next year it goes up to 12. The year after that, 13, and then 14. So people are kind of bashing Bill O'Brien, or Bob as I like to call him, for taking on another bad contract in addition to David Johnson.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that if you count the draft picks in, the Texans traded away about it's like just under 15 million, or around 15 million in cap space, and they're actually going to be paying now about 26 to 27 in this next year.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate reason why I don't think coaches should be general managers, because they make emotional decisions. And that's what I feel like happened with Hopkins. And now he's just trying to
recoup his losses.
Yeah. And here's the positive part from it. They had that draft pick is, pick 40. So it's a higher second round pick than what they had before. So they did move up in the second round, we could say, but they downgraded it at wide receiver, and they gained a running back. So I don't know. People are still going to bash and everything. My whole thing is, in the NFL, if you like the trade, just do it, because it's something for us to talk about. It's entertaining. And if Hopkins was as going to be disruptive as Bill O'Brien is kind of pushing it out to be, then maybe you needed to get out of it. Maybe Hopkins was going to hit this downward spiral. We don't know.
I mean, they always say you can't judge a trade or anything really until the players have gotten a chance to play, but it's fun to bash on them right now.
No, and I think, like we keep saying, we don't want to bash about people in the NFL, and we don't want to talk bad about them and all that stuff that much. However, I have a feeling that Bill O'Brien, the general manager, is going to fire Bill O'Brien, the head coach, by the end of this year. It's going to happen.
I don't know. I feel like he kind of is on. I feel like the two are like real buddy, and I don't think he'll want to fire his like good friend.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how personal relationships play into the role. But let's jump into our next division. And we're going to keep it in the North, but we're going to switch over to the AFC. And there you go, the AFC North. Let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Dumps it off to Mixon. Mixon has a blocker. Has daylight inside Bills territory. And he's out of bounds inside the 30.
They are going to be leading us off here in just like 10 days-ish, something like that, as the time this recording goes up. And they're going to be starting us off with number 1. So who did they add? What did they lose? Is there anything significant they've done this offseason?
Well, the Bengals, they added a couple cornerbacks in Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander. They re-signed A.J. Green, and they signed safety Von Bell from the Saints. In terms of losses, they lost Tyler Eifert, the tight end. They lost a couple cornerbacks in Drake Kirkpatrick and Douglas Denard. And that's about it for like real impact guys.
Now, the franchise tag that they applied onto AJ Green was interesting because there was reports coming out that AJ Green was saying, "Don't franchise me." Now, let's just kind of break that part down. Why do you think he doesn't want to be franchised outside of like players want to get paid? Do you think this has anything to do with like the direction the team is going and he just doesn't want to be a part of this rebuild, or he just doesn't work with a rookie quarterback, or is it just he wants his money?
I think he wants just a longer deal. I think he does want to be a part of them, and he just was hoping for a longer contract instead of just getting the 1-year tag.
And hopefully that thing will transition its way out. This team here, losing Tyler Eifert, really doesn't have an impact. This guy can never stay healthy. Now, watch him leave and never get hurt again for the rest of his career. Like, then the Bengals are just going to be like screaming to the top of the mountains, like, why couldn't he stay healthy with us? He's such an athlete.
Yeah, he had so much potential coming in and kind of wasted.
And they're swapping cornerbacks. Like, they took 2 guys from Minnesota and they're letting their 2 guys go that are, guys they drafted in the first round several years ago. And they're not even re-signing them. It's very interesting when you see that happen. And one of their big impact signings is they decided to go out and spend money on safety Von Bell, who had a pretty decent season with the New Orleans Saints. However, this is a pretty crowded safety room. I mean, Sean Williams, Jesse Bates, Von Bell. Are we going to see Von Bell maybe playing some linebacker?
I mean, teams a lot of times now are using that like hybrid safety linebacker type of dude with the more mobile quarterbacks with the run pass option. So that definitely could be an option.
Yeah, and we're going to be able to see some creative things for them. So let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this team. And the real impact they're going to have from this offseason is their draft. They hold the first pick in pretty much every round. And they can either draft the future franchise quarterback for them in Joe Burrow, which is what people are saying they're going to do, or they can trade this away for whatever they want and still get a quarterback and set themselves up. So, pick 1, pick 33. We have them needing a quarterback, receiver, some offensive line, maybe that tight end, maybe another linebacker. What do you think they do?
Well, like you said, they could theoretically trade down. I don't think there's any chance they do that. I think they're going to get Joe Burrow. I think they think he's their guy, Ohio raised. Great quarterback. I loved watching him at LSU. I think I have no doubt that that's who they'll be taking. I don't think anyone's really questioning that.
I mean, the only reason why I'm questioning this is ever since that movie Draft Day came out, I watch that movie every draft day before the draft happens because I like the movie. But, whenever that happens, whenever somebody gets a number 1 pick and they need a quarterback, I'm like, what if they don't? What if they just trade down and they just don't draft him or whatever? And I don't think it's that they'll pass on him. I don't think that they'll just draft somebody else. I think it's either Burrow or trade down.
You think it's Vontae Mack no matter what?
I mean, a guy like that, he can play like crazy all over. No, here's my thing. Let's say we're gonna put our general manager hats on right now. Okay, you're the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm gonna pick up the Miami Dolphins, and I'm gonna call you, and I'm gonna give you pick number 5, pick 26, and a first round pick next year. All you gotta do is move down 4 spots, and you gain 2 extra first round picks. Do you do that deal?
I think the danger in doing that is that, I mean, you tell yourself, all right, I'll just get Tua at number 5, but you run the risk of having someone trade up with the Lions or the Giants and taking Tua, and then you're stuck with, I mean, Justin Herbert.
Is Justin Herbert that bad of a downgrade from Burrow?
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, Burrow, if you look at how he played last year, how he ran that offense, I don't think you're gonna find that him and Tua are, in my opinion, like the top tier prospects, quarterback prospects this draft, and then I don't think anyone comes close.
Okay, fair enough. So we got Joe Burrow there. Now we're the first pick in the second round. I don't foresee them trading up. I think they're in a prime spot to get a very good player. Somebody's gonna fall out of that first round because somebody's gonna reach. Somebody's gonna take a 4th or a 5th quarterback at the very end of the first round. Do you give him another weapon? Fearing that AJ Green might not ever be who he used to be. Maybe get that tight end. It's still a little early in my opinion. Or do we just beef up this offensive line? Do we just help him out?
Yeah, in terms of tight end, I don't think there are any tight ends. This isn't a really good class for tight ends. There's quote Komet, who's the best tight end in the class, and even he's not like the greatest prospect ever. I think I would try to help Joe out as much as possible, either wide receiver, O-line. Wide receiver, he should have a lot of good options there. Maybe like a Denzel Mims or Jalen Rieger. Maybe even one of those other guys will fall to him, Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins. Or they could go offensive line. I think it depends on who they like, who's there on the board. So I would say either wide receiver or offensive line.
Now, speaking of Jalen Rieger, who you just said, he kind of did his own virtual pro day today, and he ran a 4.2240, which is crazy because we thought he was going to run that fast at the combine, and he ran a 4.47. We don't know what happened. It was disappointing, but he kind of showed he still had some speed. I think wide receiver could be a good option. I think the best play, and I think the Bengals have a decent offensive line because they're going to get Jonah Williams back from injury, and they're kind of settled at most spots except for one, and I think they need to replace Bobby Hart. Last year, he gave up 6 sacks. He had 8 penalties, and he just graded below average across the board in both pass blocking and run blocking. I think that's where they could upgrade. And I can't give you a name exactly because there's so many guys. I love this offensive line draft. I love the tackles in this draft. I know a lot of people are going to talk about the big 4, but I think somebody like Urza Cleveland in the second round from Boise State could really surprise. We got Jackson from USC. I think there's lots of different offensive linemen that are going to be starters from day one, and they're going to get drafted late. Talking about Cole Kmet, tight end, I think they could be in good spot to get him at pick 65. I think that's legitimately round 3 or 4 is where tight ends will start going, and I think they're in prime spot potentially to get him right there. So,
yeah,
let's move on to from Cincinnati. Let's drive on over to Cleveland. Let's talk about these Browns.
2nd and 12. Mayfield wants all of it. What an effort by OBJ. One-handed. Welcome back.
We've been saying it for the past couple episodes, here and there in little tidbits, is that the Browns have had a really good offseason. They've added a lot. They've lost a little.
Yeah, the Browns, I mean, I feel like we were saying this all last season as well. And they got kind of really hyped up. the Browns added Jack Conklin on the offensive line, Carl Joseph in the defensive backfield. They signed Austin Hooper, re-signed Kareem Hunt, and they added B.J. Goodson. And then they lost a couple guys like Christian Kirksey, Demetrius Harris, and Joe Schobert. Overall, I'd say they had a pretty good free agency. They added really a couple needs. Jack Conklin was a big add for them. Austin Hooper as well. It gives Baker another weapon out there. So I think they had a pretty good offseason.
Yeah, and what I like about this offseason is that Austin Hooper was a flash signing, but a lot of this is just like good depth, good players that can come in, they can start, and they're going to be able to make an impact right away. Good savvy vets. And Jack Conklin's huge because I think Baker Mayfield needs more protection. I think that run game of theirs should be better than what it provided. The Browns this past year, were 12th in rushing yards per game, which isn't bad. But when we're talking about they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they should be way higher in my opinion with how much talent they have at running back.
And don't forget, I forgot to mention, they also added the safety Andrew Sandejo from the Vikings as well.
Yeah, so that's just they're just adding more talent. Getting those two safeties will be good because they lost Demarius Randall. Well, they didn't re-sign him as well. This Browns team is going to be able to make a big impact. I know a lot of us were hyping them last year. There were some things that were just kind of down for them, and I think right now these additions are going to fill in the gaps of what the star power from last offseason had. Now, Austin Hooper, I like this guy a lot. I like this tight end. He had like 93 targets last year, 75 catches, 787 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And that's on a team that was crowded at, pass catchers. And I know a lot of people are saying that. That's what they're worried about. Well, he's not going to be as good because the Browns have a lot of mouths to feed. But they had a lot of mouths to feed in Atlanta, and he still produced.
Do you think this says something about how they feel about David Njoku?
I think Austin Hooper is a more complete back. He's a more complete tight end. He's can block better. He's safer. Like Njoku is kind of like OJ Howard. He's this guy that's all hype, and everybody says he should be this elite prospect, and it's just not translating because Njoku was raw coming out of college. People said that, but that athleticism, that's what you draft him for, is because he can do things that most guys can't. And he's strong, he's fast, I think Hooper's way better tight end prospect. I think Njoku is either going to just sit back and be the number 2, or we're going to see a draft day trade where the Browns are going to use, they have 2 third-round picks. I could honestly see them pairing a third in Njoku and moving into the back end of the second. They drafted number 10. They drafted 41. And like I said, they got 2 picks in the 3rd round. They need, even though they added Conklin, I still think they need to maybe double down. They need to get another offensive lineman, preferably at left tackle, because Conklin is a right tackle. Profile's best there. They need to add more linebacker. They need to add some, maybe a defensive tackle here or there. And I do think that they need to add another safety. I know we just said that they brought in Carl Joseph and Sanjeo. I know Joseph's a 1-year deal. They need to get somebody that can be in there and, have some longevity. There's 4 really good safeties in this draft, I think, that can be long-term starters for teams. And we'll talk about that in our mock draft area.
I think at number 10, they'll be in a position to get one of those top 4 guys. I've seen some mock drafts sending either Thomas or Becton there because I think a lot of times Wirtz or Wills will take him before. But a lot of people have the order on these top 4 guys changed up a little bit.
I think all these guys can play left tackle. I think they all have a lot of good skill sets. Some are quicker than others. Some are stronger than others. However, I think no matter what, you're going to get a starter with these 4 guys. This is a really good spot for them. They're sitting at 10, and they're still going to get a starter right away. That's going to make an impact for them. And if they can add a good, strong left tackle that this franchise has been dying for ever since Joe Thomas retired, and they haven't been able to replace. I mean, they had Chris Hubbard, who, again, 6 sacks allowed, 8 penalties, graded very poorly last year. And I think that upgrade right there can be huge because Hubbard, I think, is better as a guard. They can shift him on the inside, use him as depth. It doesn't matter for me what tackle they get. I would want worse, preferably. That's just me. But I could see them going any direction.
Yeah.
What about that number 41 spot? What do you think is the second most important thing for them to address to get some more use, some longevity? 41's right up there. It's still a high pick. There's still guys. I mean, there's some drafts that guys, some scouts like Daniel Jeremiah, whatever, they'll have like 45 guys with first round grades. Doesn't make sense to me, but he does. So, I mean, they're going to get a first round grade guy potentially.
Yeah, I think with this second pick, they need to. I do think they need a bit of help at the linebacker position. I think in terms of other offensive positions, they're pretty much set. When we're talking about skill positions, quarterback, they're obviously going to go with Baker. So I do think with the rest of their picks, they would be wise to go defense. And I think they could be at a position to get one of those linebackers at the towards the beginning of the second round.
Yeah, there's it all depends because like some of these guys I think are really could benefit playing a lot of different places. Zach Bond out of Wisconsin is one of those guys that I think could profile really well as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, I think he did play edge the most of the time at Wisconsin.
What I've been seeing about him is he's one of those guys that everybody's been saying, like, just keep moving him. Like, don't put him in a spot and keep him stationary because he's so athletic. He can attack from multiple spots. Also, another guy is Josh Ush from Michigan, another good outside linebacker. And I honestly think like 3 or 4 of these linebackers are going to be gone before this pick. Like Simmons is going to be gone. Chasen's going to be gone. Queen's going to be gone. Murray's going to be gone. So,
and honestly, I have a hard time believing no one's going to take Bond and at the end of the first round or beginning of the second.
Here's a linebacker that I think could profile really well for them is Malik Harrison out of Ohio State, but I think would be a great linebacker for them. It gives them a chance to get another guy, in state. And I don't, the NFL doesn't do this as much. I feel like the NBA does it a lot more, but the NFL, I feel like every now and then will value a guy that's from their area a little bit more. It's probably because they could see them more. They get more coverage on them. A guy like Malik Harrison is somebody that I think can play inside linebacker, but however they want to take it, getting the best talented linebacker they can at 41, I think is the key. And you know what? This is early. I was going to say this like later on in a couple episodes, but a bold prediction, the Browns are making the playoffs this year. I totally think they're going to do it. I think the Steelers are on the down. Bengals need more time. Browns are going to make the playoffs. I just think it's going to happen.
I think they could, but I think it's funnier and the world is a better place when the Browns are when they're always terrible.
One thing that might affect them big time, not disregarding your comment. You say that all the time, and I like it. Jarvis Landry had hip surgery this offseason. He had it back in February. It was like early to mid-February. Projected to get 6 to 8 months recovery time. He, depending on how it happens, how well he does, he might miss the start of preseason, maybe week 1. I don't know how he's going to recover. If he's out, they really don't have a lot of guys behind OBJ and him. I know they have a couple guys like somebody that you like, Tywan Taylor and stuff. And
we don't like Tywan Taylor in our camp.
They have some people, but I think that the Browns might be another team that will probably draft a wide receiver with one of those 3rd-round picks. There's so much talent at the receiver position. They could get somebody like Donovan Peoples-Jones to play for them, in the 3rd round and be a solid value pick for them. So, alrighty, from the Cleveland Browns to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
First and 10 at the 18. He gets the snap. Big rush. He's hit. And the ball is out. And the Steelers have it. T.J. Watt has it on the sack and stripped by Bud Dupree.
Oh man, this thing is messy. These Steelers they need some help. And I know there's a lot of Steelers fans out there. You guys tout off how many rings you guys have won in the past and how good your team was. I said this a couple years ago. If they lose Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, it's all gonna go. It's all gonna be gone. It's just the magic's gonna be gone. And Juju did not have an effective season last year. I know he was hurt a couple games. However, they need more. And having Big Ben there helps. But even if he's healthy this whole season, I don't know how much they can do.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, it seems like they're losing players. They have a good defense. Their defense is one of the best in the league. But their offense really, especially without Big Ben, we saw how bad the offense was last year. One thing I do have to add that they do have going for them is Mike Tomlin. The fact that he was able to take that, sort of mess of an offense and lead them almost to the playoffs is kind of a testament to how good he is as a coach. In terms of players, they lost BJ Finney on the offensive line. They lost Javon Hargrave and Artie Burns. They added Steven Wisniewski, they franchise tagged Bud Dupree, re-signed Vance McDonald, the tight end, and they added Eric Ebron at tight end from the Colts. None of these are real flashy moves, but Dupree has always been a solid linebacker for them. I really like watching him play. And I think a lot of this season depends on how if Big Ben can stay healthy, if he can play. Yeah, like you said, Juju really needs to step it up this season.
And it's not like when I say the Steelers need help and they're in trouble and everything, it's not that they need they don't have good players. It's just they need those players in those positions to step up and play a lot better. Like Juju, like you're saying. Big Ben's got to be healthy. James Conner's got to get healthy. And those wide receivers, they have some nice receivers. Deontay Johnson's coming into his second year, James Washington into his third. It's a nice little trio they got. Two good tight ends that, McDonald can block and mid-run routes. Ebron is a red zone threat. He's just 2 years removed from having double-digit touchdowns. This team has an elite defense. But offensively, 27th in points per game. They were 31st in passing yards per game, and they were 29th in rushing yards per game. I can see this team potentially drafting another running back, more offensive line, and probably Big Ben's, future replacement.
Yeah, I don't see them as drafting a quarterback. They don't have a first-round pick, but even if they did, I'm not sure I would have them picking a quarterback in the first round. I think they do. I also could see them drafting one of those top running backs in the second or even the third round. They do need help I agree they need help on offensive line. I could maybe see them getting another wide receiver if they're kind of not sure about Juju, or even just play opposite Juju. So that's kind of what I think about what they need to do.
For me, I think I could see them drafting in the second round or third round, potentially somebody like Jalen Hurts or Jake Fromm. If Jacob Eason falls in the second round, I don't think Mason Rudolph is the answer. I don't think trusting Big Ben can play more than 2 seasons is the answer. Because, Big Ben was drafted in that same draft with Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. And we're sitting here saying Eli Manning's done. Good, he needs to be. Phillip Rivers is on a 2-year window. That's why he signed a 2-year deal. That's what everybody's saying. He's going to play for 2 more years. He's going to sign 2 years with the Colts. Play this year, get a bigger deal, whatever. Next year, why isn't Big Ben getting talked about in the same mindset? He's had more injuries, and like 5-6 years ago, he was talking about maybe I'm going to retire. I don't trust this guy. He could retire at any moment.
Well, I think the difference kind of is that he didn't play this year. I think the differences with Big Ben is that Eli Manning in his last few years, kind of we saw a decline in his play. Phillip Rivers wasn't his same old self last year, so people are like seeing this decline and saying, well, our time is coming. I think since Big Ben didn't really play last year, he was hurt, I think people didn't really have a chance to see that. And so they're kind of just assuming he'll come back as the same Big Ben he always was.
That's fair. Now, let's address the running back. I'm a big James Conner fan. I like his story. I like how he plays. I like everything about the guy. However, I do think they need a better complement than Jalen Samuels, who struggled last year when he got some time. He's a pretty good pass catcher, but I think they could upgrade. And who I think would be an ideal fit for them is LSU running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who, in my opinion, profiles as like slightly under like Alvin Kamara type skill set, and he could complement James Conner very well. James Conner's also going into his rookie contract year. We know the Steelers don't like to pay people money unless you're Big Ben. Do you think they're going to draft a running back early?
Yeah, like you said, I think they need a player like Edwards-Helaire, because Conner's not the most versatile running back. He's kind of a more power running back. I think they do need that like more versatile, like you said, Alvin Kamara type running back to complement him, and maybe eventually take over for him. Kind of like what the Saints did with Kamara and Ingram.
Now, losing that 18th pick in the first round, I thought at first was going to be like huge, like detrimental when they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. However, he is clearly better than any safety in this draft, in my opinion, and probably would be drafted higher, closer to the top 10 if he was in this draft. So ideally, that's who I'm going to pencil in as like their first pick. And for me, I think this team is probably going to need to trade up. They don't really need to draft all 7 of their draft picks. They have 2 in the 4th, they have 6 draft picks. They have 2 in the 4th. They have a late 6th and a late 7th. I think they could package a lot of these up, move up higher, and go out and get, a nice running back complement, go out and get another guard, and go out and get a defensive tackle. Some big, beefy dude that can just, stuff the middle of the line. This is the draft. If you need players to start for you, like, you're going to be able to get them. And I think that they could get somebody like Devon Hamilton out of Ohio State to play defensive tackle. There's a lot of guys I like in this draft that could step up and become a legit player for them. Neville Gallimore, Raquan Davis. There's so many guys I think could play the middle of that defensive line for them. I know I was saying it earlier. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback either. I'm just hoping that these reports I'm reading about Jameis Winston aren't true and that they'll actually sign him, because I would love to see Jameis Winston in Pittsburgh. If Big Ben goes down, I think it would be a great fit for him.
But do you really want Jameis Winston and Big Ben in the same city going to the same parties?
I mean, if you're a news writer or you cover sports, this is what you want. It's just free. It's just free stories.
It's free real estate.
Exactly. Now, the Steelers, again, did finish 8-8 last year. The NFL, advanced their vote and everything and approved to add that 7th team in the playoff per conference. They would have been that number 7 seed last year. I think potentially that this team is, like I said, is in a lot of trouble if their players don't perform how they should. Granted, that's like a John Madden thing. You could say that for a lot of teams. However, they've got some really good players that need to play like they're really good players. Like, if you're elite, Juju, you got to prove it now. You don't have a shield on the other side, Antonio Brown taking number 1 corners from you every game. You've got to step up. You got to deliver. Big Ben, you got to be healthy. If these things come together, we could see 3 teams from this division making the playoffs. Let's shift on over to, one of the best offensive teams last year in regards of rushing and scoring, and a really stout defensive team, the Baltimore Ravens.
Lamar on a run.
Takes it himself. Look at him turn back and forth. Oh! He broke his ankles. Now he's got an entourage. And he's got a touchdown.
We got MVP Lamar Jackson ready to go for another season. He's proving everybody wrong. Like, every single scout at the combine that was like, he should switch to wide receiver, is just like all losing their jobs right now, not because of the virus. And good for him. Now, this Ravens team, I was saying at the beginning of offseason, was having an amazing free agency. They were trading for guys extremely cheap. They were getting rid of guys and getting good packages back. I mean, they had a great deal with Campbell. They got a great deal with Hayden Hurst. Talk about some of their adds, some of their losses.
Yeah, I mean, they traded a 5th-round pick for Calais Campbell from the Jags. I mean, they got him for cheap because his contract's expensive, but Calais Campbell's a great player. He's one of the best defensive linemen in the game. They also signed Derek Wolfe over from the Broncos. They franchise tagged Matt Judon, who has been he was kind of like a real breakout star for them last year. They did lose one of their tight ends, Hayden Hurst. They traded him to the Falcons for a 2nd-round pick, which is great value because if you were going by snap count, Hayden Hurst was their number 3 tight end. So trading your number 3 tight end for a 2nd-round pick is pretty good move. They lost Michael Pierce off that defensive line. And then they also they lost Marshall Yanda, who retired. He was a really great offensive guard for a long time.
And here's the thing. We see a lot of teams doing this, and they're doing it fast and everything. Losing Pierce was okay for them because they got in Campbell. Losing Hurst is okay for them because they have Andrews. Getting Derek Wolfe is good. They originally were going to sign Michael Brockers, but the deal kind of fell through, and he went back to the Rams. So getting Derek Wolfe is a pretty good, complimentary pick there, signing. I love this trade they did for Hurst. Getting that 2nd-round pick, which was the New England Patriots pick. It was pick 55, I believe. And that's the pick that the Falcons got for trading away Mohamed Sanu. So this right here, the Ravens, I think are winners. They have 9 picks in this draft. They were the number 1 scoring offense last year, number 1 rushing offense. They were 27th in pass, but that's because of game script more than anything.
Yeah, that's their scheme. That's not any knock on
And
them.
this team, they were 3rd in points allowed per game. They were 6th in passing yards allowed per game and 5th in rushing yards allowed per game. And I think they got better at defensive tackle. They kept they kept their best linebacker, and they didn't really lose anything. So this team still needs stuff, even though they're elite. And I have them down for needing a wide receiver. Obviously, they need a guard, and they need another corner, and they could maybe use another linebacker. Now, wide receiver is an interesting one because we just talked about it. It's the way they plan things. Like, their whole game script is run, trick play, pass, run. And like, that's all they do. But getting a receiver, I think, would change that and could add another element and layer to them. I don't think Hollywood Brown, is a number 1 wide receiver. I think he's more of a compliment. I like Miles Boykin, but this team needs a number 1 guy.
I think I have wide receiver as less of a need for them. I will say they have very few glaring holes on the team. I think they're a real complete team, and I don't expect them to take a step back. I think teams will kind of start to figure out how to stop their offense. I think a lot of them might take a look at how the Titans beat them by 16 points in the divisional round. I don't think they'll take like a huge step back in terms of their record or their offensive production. I have them in the first round. I see inside linebacker as kind of a bigger need for them. I could see them maybe in position to get Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray. Doubtful if they fall that far. Maybe they trade up a bit. And then I do think they need to get an offensive guard in the second round to replace Marshall Yanda.
So that's the thing. They drafted number 28. They're 55 and 60. And like I said, they have 2 picks in the 3rd and the 4th as well. I think they're going to be aggressive. With having an extra pick in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, they have no reason to not try and trade up, whether that be from pick 55 or pick 28. I agree. I think linebacker is the go-to move here at 28. It's a popular move across the internet. I think Kenneth Murray is the pick because I think Queen, I just have a feeling Queen's going to be gone around pick 20, 21. So I'm saying Murray's going to be the 3rd linebacker off the board. If he falls to 28, it's a steal. It's a great pick for them. It's an instant starter. It's a guy that can play sideline to sideline. In the 2nd round, I'm gonna give you my ideal pick for them. 28, they get Murray. At 55, they draft offensive guard Shane Lemieux from Oregon. And then at 60, they draft wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. from USC. 6'4", big body. I think that would be a great draft for them because it would give them a legitimate linebacker to run the game. I mean, he could play inside, he could play outside. It really doesn't matter where he plays linebacker. I think he's very intelligent. He can captain that defense for them. And then the wide receiver can help them out. Pittman can, be a great red zone target for Jackson. And then adding in Shane Lemieux is just going to help them dominate even more. I can't say help them improve their run game because their run game is near perfection. However, Mark Ingram's another year older. You still want to protect Lamar Jackson from getting hit hard. So I think keep adding to that line is key. Because if that line falls and breaks down, Lamar Jackson does not have the frame, in my opinion, to hold up in this league very long.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been pretty good about not taking too many hits. I wouldn't say he's been playing like Josh Allen or like Cam Newton where they run, get a lot of yards, and take a huge hit. I think Lamar Jackson has been a bit smarter about that.
Alrighty, well, that is going to do it here for us on Second and Short. This is the AFC North Breakdown. This division is a division that I always look at with the term, if I could pick one word, it's just like gritty. It's just like getting down and dirty type teams that are just going to run the ball a lot. They're going to stuff your face on defense if they can. This division is going to be great coming in the next couple of years. And depending on what the Steelers do, the Steelers get a quarterback next year. I mean, we're going to have 3 to 4 young quarterbacks in the next 2 years in this division for a long time. Again, I am Tyler Louder. He is Aaron Benn. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and we'll see you guys next time.
Love you.